welcome to this yin class on a Sunday, and our theme at the moment is creativity. We had a vinyasa flow on Thursday where we used movement and breath to listen to the rhythms of the body and the voices, the inner voices of creativity in the body, and try to move in more kind of fluid and intuitive ways in that flow. Lots of space for people to find their own groove and version of postures. And today we are going to, of course, do our yin poses. We're going to be using a chair. Make sure you have a standard kind of dining room chair nearby, with a towel or blanket over it. If it has no cushioning, the edges can be quite hard. And make sure that you have got cushions, at least two standard sized cushions or more. The more the better. If you do have any soft, nice props from your house that you like to use and integrate into your practice. So today we're going to begin not sitting but lying down. So there is a lovely pose. It's like a supported fish pose, super relaxing. So we're going to begin in that. So have your body in down the length of your mat. Your feet should be hip width apart or further, feet flopping out as if you're going to Shavasana. But then you've got one or two cushions behind you, depending on the length. I'm using two because they're standard square kind of scatter cushions. And you simply going to lie back on those cushions. So I had the edge of the cushion kind of flush to my sitting bones. And lying back on those cushions, make sure that your head is supported somehow, and make sure that you feel as though your chest and lungs are elevated through the pose as well. Bum flat on the floor, no cushion under the bum. So you should feel a natural kind of arch and curve in the spine that's also supported by cushions. And then I invite you to place your hands over your rib cage, lower rib cage. And I invite you to close your eyes here and to tune into your breath. As you close your eyes, I invite you to turn the attention and the focus inwards. And let us also use the power of touch to draw mind to breath. So as we bring our hands to the rib cage and the mind to the nostrils, we are using accessible tools in our body, in our natural processes to help us focus on the breath, to help us focus on our practice and let all the thoughts and distractions around fade. Giving you this time on your mat to be mentally present. Let your breathing be easy, no forced lengthening or shortening. Just let it fall as is. And listen with acute interest to that cadence of breath, your cadence of breath. And as you do that, let your jaw and your face and your neck be soft. Feel as though the attention on breath is a trigger to the parasympathetic nervous system. So a whole process by which you relax quite simply and heal in the body. Begin to feel this calm that washes over you, start to seep into the cells of the body. Start to seep into each and every corner of your lungs, of your belly, into the seat of the body, into your heart space, into the back and the spine. Let that sense of calm and focus seep through the legs and the arms. Let it permeate through the palms and the soles of the feet. Feeling a full bodily wash of harmony of focus, of stillness. These are elements and intentions of our yin practice, so let us embrace them and let them fill our bodies and minds in this time together. As we lie here for the last minute or so, I invite you to start to lengthen your breath now. And we can do a count of 4 on the inhalation, a pause at the top of the breath for 2, and a count of 6 on the exhalation. A pause of 2, and a count of 4. Inhale, pause, exhale. Pause, inhale, pause, exhale, pause, inhale, pause, exhale. This will be our last round. Pause, inhale, pause, and long full exhalation to your extension, your capacity. And then slowly start to open your eyes as you inhale, maybe stretching your arms above your head, reaching into the toes. Bringing your arms alongside the body enough to lift your torso up and move those cushions that support out the way. And from there, stay where you are with your bum seated in the center of the mat. And we're going to roll back and down, coming into what's known as the cat's noose. So before we do all of our chair poses, we're going to open up in a reclining twist. So come to lie on the mat and to lift the legs up, bending your knees. First point is to interlock the fingers over the elbows and exhale to draw the elbows down towards the belly. You can press your coccyx into the floor and lengthen over the back of the neck as you draw your chin in towards your chest. Just a few breaths here. And then exhale to release, and let's move into the first side of the cat's noose. So bringing your left leg over the right and your right hand on the outside of the left foot. And then your left hand on the outside of the right foot. And then slowly lower your right leg down towards the floor, keeping hold of the right foot in the left hand, or hooking a strap or something around it if you need to. And then you're going to rotate over onto the right side of the body and then bring your left leg over towards the right side. And if you feel like you need it, you can place a cushion of support underneath your left leg here on the side, on the floor. Option 1. Option 2, if you have the flexibility in your hamstrings, is to straighten your left leg out, keeping hold of the left foot with the right hand. That'll be a bit more of an intensive twist and stretch. It's entirely up to you. And once you've found your edge, close your eyes and let your head gently roll over to as if you were looking over your left shoulder. So in the opposing direction to which the rest of your body is moving towards. Hence the twist. And so our theme is creativity. And of course, in creativity in modern life is intertwined, the way in which we talk about it, the way in which it's commodified and sold and written about, is very much intertwined with production and effective production. It's intertwined with the end result. It's focused on end result. Being creative today, as we commonly speak about it and think about it, is doing creative. A creative person is measured by how much and what they produce. And of course, this was not always the case. Traditionally, meaning pre-industrial time, further back than that, pre-formalized religion times, creativity was considered to be something that arrived upon you, that was channeled through you from the gods, the spirits, from forces beyond oneself. And it was considered that only a few minds were able to tap into and interpret these messages or impulses that arrived in you from elsewhere. Taking a last 2 breaths on this side. And when you're ready, gently lifting up that left leg, coming towards the center, and just aligning your spine. And let's go over to the other side. So your right leg will come over the left, hooking left hand over the outside of the right foot, right hand over the outside of the left. When you're ready, exhale to lower that left leg to the floor with the knee bent, and then swivel over onto the left side of the body, as you either keep the right knee bent and have a cushion underneath that leg, or if it is in your range, stretch the right leg out and get a deeper stretch in the hamstring. Once you've found your edge, let your head softly look over or align in the direction over the right shoulder. Tuning mind to breath. So this sort of traditional or ancient interpretation of creativity could be understood by an epithet that went, the heart of creativity is an experience of the mystical union. And that was interpreted then with the coming of formalized religion for creativity to be interloped with the working of the church. And most creative or expressive pursuits, where be they writing, painting, architecture, all the great kind of creative pursuits, were formalized and controlled and patronized through formalized religion, through the church, and temples, and through religious figures, and kept within religious classes. And so that belief that there were only certain people that could tap into creative impulses was manipulated, was used. And furthermore, the idea that creativity came from somewhere else, that it was in the hands of a divine or mystical or spiritual force, that was also reinterpreted and used within the context of power in the time of formalized religion through the Middle Ages, right up until the time of the Enlightenment. All creativity, creative pursuit, was kept within the realm of first mysticism and then the church. the average human being was considered to never need even bother themselves with trying to be creative or do creative things or have creativity in any way in their life. Then around the time of the Enlightenment, there was a big shift, and there was a term that we think use a lot these days that we kind of take for granted, but is actually a very modern term, and that is creative imagination. Prior to the Enlightenment, and in particular the Romantics, there was no concept of a creative imagination. Taking a last full inhalation and exhalation. And then inhale to return to the center. Knees bent, and on the exhalation, open the legs out on either side of the chest, and we'll come into the happy baby here. So hands clasped on the outer blade of each foot once again, and gently using a bit of strength in the arms to press the feet down, pressing the knees down towards the earth on either side of your chest. Let your shoulders be soft, let your face be soft, and try to relax your belly, relax the lower spine. So commonly in an active practice, you would be pressing your lower spine onto the floor and trying to get the knees as close as possible. So I invite you to make this pose in our yin practice a bit more passive. So soften the belly, let the natural curve of the lower spine draw the coccyx off the floor. And although there is a bit of almost gravitational pressure on the legs, try not to strain through the hips. Let the shoulder joints and the back of the shoulders and upper arms be soft too. And so this term, creative imagination, implies that creativity is self-generated. That creativity is something that can come from what is ultimately a function of the human brain, the imagination. And the Romantics, like Coleridge and Wordsworth, were very concerned with this, and they divided the imagination into two categories, the one being kind of an organizational imagination, everyday tasks, and then what could be kind of seen as a fancy imagination, a nobler imagination. And that from that part of the brain, they believed came creative pursuits, that we could generate good ideas, new ideas, profound ideas from the human mind. And that is early 19th century. From here, I invite you to open out the hips a little bit with the breath. So keeping hold of your feet. On your exhalation, draw the right foot in towards your hips and the left leg out towards the side, straightening the legs if you can whilst keeping hold of it. Or if the knee is still bent, that's fine, but straightening it out to your edge, to the point that feels good for you. And inhale. And exhale, let's swap over to the other side. Inhale, exhale. Just flow here with your own breath, alternating with each exhalation. Allow yourself to open out and stretch into the groin and inner line of your leg. And as you soften the shoulders and the back of the neck, can also feel a nice opening in that part of the body through the stretch as the leg stretches out. Try to keep your alignment straight on your mat. Try not to rock and roll too much. Going through 2 more iterations on each side. And then returning to the center and holding onto your knees and slowly rocking up onto your mat. And as we've opened the hips out, we can now move into a sitting forward bend before we get busy with the chair. Wide leg sitting forward bend, as we've opened those hips out quite a bit. So find your straddle seat and then bring a castle of soft things in front of you, a fortress of cushions in front of your body, and make your feet soft. If it feels nice for you, allow the flesh of the buttocks and the hips to move outwards. Just aid the forward pelvic tilt if that feels right and good for you. And then once you've set yourself up, soften through the feet and allow the body to fold forwards over the cushions. As you start to fold forwards, just take a moment to check your neck alignment. So it serves the nervous system to have the head supported in all of these forward folds. So if that doesn't happen comfortably with your cushions, then maybe you want to put an extra blanket in, or put a bit of extra blanket or block under your head. Or if that is not available to you, then you can just cradle your forehead in your palms with your elbows supported on the floor or on a cushion. And I invite you to gently press the hips backwards in space. Press the bum backwards in space. And feel the belly softly rising and falling, and press against the cushions. And feel the gentle stretch of tendons and muscles on the underside and inner side of your legs. Just being fully aware of this, acknowledging the sensations. For some people, hip openers like this are quite emotional or just simply very challenging physically. So I invite you, wherever you are in your body today, to acknowledge that and return to the breath at any moment of discomfort, or if you feel agitated, settling into stillness. There's a famous poem by Wordsworth, you might know of it. It's called Prelude, and there's an extract from that I'd like to read to you. An auxiliary light came from my mind, which on the setting sun bestowed new splendor. The melodious birds, the gentle breeze, fountains that ran on, murmuring so sweetly in themselves, obeyed. A like dominion, and the midnight storm grew darker in the presence of my eye. So what this poem is very much about the creative imagination and creative potential. And as Wordsworth was a romantic, it is also about the meeting between the potential of the human mind and nature, and the creative energy in nature, the continuous cycle of creation and destruction, and the beauty of that, and the beauty and the potential of the human mind, the potential to create beautifully should the human draw on nature as the main subject. That was the main preoccupation of the Romantics. And what this is also speaking to is a very critical thing and very critical difference in an approach to creativity then and now. And that is that this type of creativity that Wordsworth pursued and was so concerned with and pondered on and was his life's work was not about making things or producing things, but about experiencing life in a certain way. Creativity was a way of life, a way of seeing rather than a way or cadence of doing. So today, if you're not productive, you're considered blocked, and you're considered not creative if you don't produce. But this perspective, seen in Wordsworth's poems and then in the Romantics in general, was that creativity is not at all about the end product. It is not at all about being blocked or unblocked. It's not about being in a flow, or we talk about today unleashing or awakening creativity. We talk about it as a tap. And no, that is not at all the perspective. The perspective in this poem is that it is a way of being, a natural way of being in the world and in one's surroundings, a way of looking. And there's something amazingly liberating and also democratizing about that perspective. It means that anybody can be creative. There is no hierarchy, whether it is to do with status in society or whether it is to do with what one pursues and how much they produce. No, those are not at all important. It is more about how one goes about living their life and conducting themselves. I always remember a Swami in the ashram that I attended in my first teacher training in Vrindavan in India. And in one of the morning pranayama sessions, he looked over into the courtyard adjacent, and there was a worker who was sweeping. And he spent the whole of the session, instead of doing pranayama, instead of doing the asana, he was talking about how sweeping a courtyard could be a creative act. Should the mind be calmed and aligned and focused on the act of doing in a certain way. Indeed, it is the same as what Wordsworth was getting at. Taking last 3 breaths here in our long hold of the sitting forward bend with wide legs. And when you're ready, pushing the floor away to inhale and lift up. Moving the cushions out the way from you. And as you release the back and the chest, let's bring the hands behind the hips, fingers pointing away, and keep the straddle. You can point into the toes, stretch into the ankles if it feels good, and just release the forward bend. Press the base of the body and the hips into the floor. Taking 3 full breaths here. And then inhale to sit up. And for the next few breaths, we can make them dynamic movement with breath. So to open out the side body. So I'm moving towards the left side, right arm overhead. Doesn't matter which direction you start at all. And reach through the top of the head and just make a nice, natural, full, and enjoyable, more to you stretch. So my elbow is on the floor on the left side, but that is not necessary. So even if you're higher up, hand pressing on the floor, it's all good. So just find your edge, exhale, inhale to lift up, exhale over to the other side. Lengthen into the neck. When you're ready, inhale up, exhale down. And from here, I invite you to flow with your breath. So inhale up, exhale down, and we'll all find our own cadence. Try to marry the movement and the extent of the movement with the breath as you go from side to side. One more time on each side. And returning to the center. And from here, before we get going on the chair, last thing, we're going to just use the nice open hips we've got. So we want to make like a figure 4, that's what it's called, shape. So right angle in each knee. My left knee is in and down, and the quad is in a straight line. If I were to be facing forwards, and the other leg is also in a straight line if I'm facing the side, so making figure 4 shape. Keep your hands aloft if you can. If you need the support of the floor, use it, of course, but give it a bash without using your hands. Inhale to lift up and exhale to go the other side. So you might be feeling quite a bit as you do this. Inhale up, exhale. Inhale up, exhale, and exhale. Inhale up. I'm sort of moving forward in space, slowly walking forwards. Let's do one more time on each side. Perfect. Returning to the center, drawing the knees up towards the chest. 3 breaths here as you hold the knees in towards your heart. Gently release your hands and place them on either side of your hips to come up onto your feet, and we'll now integrate the chair. So you're going to have to move your chair onto your mat. So when you place the chair on the mat, make sure you have enough of your mat behind the seat of the chair. And from here, beginning without a cushion, bring your hips close in towards the mat, close in towards the front of the chair, on the mat, and then hook your feet over. So we're going to begin in what's called Viparita Karani or Lega Thawar pose, but the chair version. So I'm going to try and lift my feet as high as I can. So they're kind of up on the back of the chair, kind of hook my toes in there. Everybody's chair is different. The length of everyone's legs is different, but have your feet elevated. And I invite you to bring your arms either up alongside your face, framing your face, so elbows in line with shoulders, or if that feels too intensive for your shoulders or your chest, you can have your hands on either side of the body as well. So it's up to you. And close your eyes. And just feel that gentle pressure and touch of the base of the spine to the earth. And is really a foundational, very important restorative pose, one we can always return to at any time of day or night. And so even in the early 20th century, the coming of the world wars and the modern era and modernism, there was still a focus on creativity as being a way of life. If you look at the art movements of the early 20th century, look at Sophie Cull, for example, is a famous statement she made, which is, "I fabricate a life to fit my art, and I fabricate art to fit my life." Meaning, and of course the Surrealists were very much like this, the Dadaists, it was all a way of being, more just than the production. Of course, we remember those art movements, those creative impulses and movements through the edifices that they leave behind, but ultimately what they imparted on the world and what was at the heartbeat of that creative epoch and moment was a way of looking at the world, a way of living a life and seeing things. But by the 1950s, creativity became a subject of psychiatry, and it became a subject of scientific study. And this is really the moment where we transition from creativity being a way of living to a form of production. It is almost impossible to, of course, find the data analysis for the soul fire or an outlook, but one can find the quantitative and empirical study and the data and all of that consideration of science. One can find that in production. And so the focus of a lot of scientific papers and a whole deluge of psychological books, both academic and in a kind of a self-help genre, were all focused on what they could prove and what they could study, which is how much and what one produces. And of course, interloped with that is time. So as our world speeds up and as this genre and era of creativity as a scientific study progresses and gets used within a commercial space, in a business space, so there is also now a pressure on creativity. There's a whole load of literature on being creative in a minute, creative on demand. When I was reading for this class and this subject and thinking about this, there was a whole lot, there was a study done by a psychologist specialist on the subject who's interviewing CEOs about the 3 things that they value the most for employees, and creativity is consistently in the top 3. And so these days, creativity means not just productivity, but money, commercial value, profit. And the more you can produce in the shorter amount of time, the more money you can make in a shorter amount of time. So I invite you to slowly exhale and lower your feet from the back of the chair, enough to have them settled on the seat of the chair, and to grab a cushion. And you're going to have to lift your hips enough to place the cushion underneath your lower hips. If you have to roll to the side to do that, that's also okay, and then sit back down on it. But basically you want a cushion flush to the front of the chair. And then you're going to have to get hold of the legs of the chair and use them to kind of shift your way up the chair, bringing your shoulders on the blanket or the cushion. So you should get to the point where your bum is on the edge of the chair. Check in with your neck. The full pressure of your body shouldn't be on your neck. You should have the cushion supporting, and you should be able to balance and push your bum on the edge of the chair. And then holding your hands onto the arms, the legs of the chair, you can soften your legs over the top edge. So it's almost like a supported shoulder stand. Try and soften into your jaw. Try and soften into your neck. And remind yourself that you have the anatomy, the structure, the skeletal structure to support yourself in the pose. You don't need to strain in a muscular way. You also have the chair to support you. Focus on the breath. So if we are to turn away from this preoccupation with creativity as productivity and measurable by science, how can we do that? It is quite a loose thing to just say, oh, it's a way of life. There seem to be three central aspects aligned with creativity that can be integrated in a way of living and can perhaps help us return to the essence of what creativity can mean for our imagination and for everyday tasks and for you, whatever it is that sets your soul on fire, whether it is a traditionally creative discipline or something else, something not traditionally creative, but that creativity can be imbued in. And the first of these three is optimism. So creativity at essence is a way of seeing opportunity and space or expanse where there was maybe previously considered to be none. It is seeing a new door or a new avenue or an alternative way of doing something. And that is ultimately an optimistic outlook. A creative mind seeks to indeed problem solve, but to always see opportunity. There was a convention in doing something, regardless of what it is. The creative approach is to seek out a new space in that, a new way of doing it, perhaps, an alternative edge on it. And it is to always see that. It is to always seek that and flow towards that. And that is ultimately a very optimistic outlook. That does not mean, of course, that creativity has to be flowers and sunshine. It's not optimism in that sense. It's optimism in a sense of seeing expanse, seeing opportunity, even if the subject matter is not positive. It's dealing with difficult or dark things. That's fine. But it is seeing opportunity. Taking your last full breath here. And then on the exhalation, slowly and carefully rolling down. So almost like folding down, bum off the chair. And your lower back will now be on a cushion. And I invite you just to draw your knees up towards your heart and soften the shoulders and neck. We're going to open them out now in the opposite direction using the chair. Just take a moment just to rock from side to side here, knees to chest. And then allow yourself to roll completely to one side and come up onto your knees, facing the chair. If you have a cushion in front of it, or you should, then move that out the way. And this next nice stretch for the shoulders all depends on the height of your chair and you in relation to it. So everyone's going to be different. For me, it's fine to stay on my knees and to move my bum back and soften my head as I allow my forehead to be supported by the edge of the chair. And I'm still getting a nice stretch through the shoulders. But maybe the chair is too high for you or too low, or the back of the chair is too high or too low. In that case, maybe you want to stand on your feet, have your feet hip width apart, slight micro bend in the knees, and soften your head, maybe reaching the edge of the chair like I demonstrated on the knees. So either is fine. Find your edge, either on your knees or on your feet. And maybe if you chose the one and haven't tried the other and feel slightly uncomfortable, give the alternative a little trial. Take your time to get into the pose and find your most comfortable iteration. And really try to let the heart melt downwards, let the heart be heavy, and let the base of the spine and the lower back be long. Let your hips tilt up towards the ceiling as much as possible. Almost press the bum up in space. And try to let the neck be long and soft. Let the head be heavy. Try to relax through each exhalation into your underarms and over the front of the chest. This is a deep heart opener, and it is a very intensive release and stretch for the upper middle back, where so many of us take strain over desk work and computer work. And so our second of these three essential ways to return to a creative way of being and life is to be receptive. So creativity is to be sensitive and watchful of all details and aspects and the environment around one. But it is not just to observe, it is to be almost porous, to be moved by, to drink in and allow the subject matter or environment or what one is doing, to allow that to enter one's mind and body, and then ways of expressing that, ways of redoing that, ways of expressing in your chosen form of creative pursuit. It is a kind of transparent and porous receptivity. And this requires acute focus and observation, but also care, compassion, empathy. Last 3 full deep breaths here. Let your lungs truly expand and contract fully. Let the belly move with the breath. And when you're ready, inhale to stand up. standing up nice and slowly. And from there, you can place your hands in the small of the back, bend your knees, fingers pointing up towards shoulders, elbows back in space and maybe drawing in towards each other, and allow the bum to be soft and the belly to be soft as you allow a natural arch in the spine, and then look up towards the ceiling. So the neck is really moving backwards now, chest is opening, arms moving in opposing direction, different rotation in the shoulders here. Last full breath here, inhale, exhale. Keep the knees bent and then slowly release your hands and allow them to melt on the side of the body as you soften the head to the floor and kind of like a rag doll. Feel the heaviness in the head, the heaviness in the arms, maybe swaying from side to side. Nice juicy stretch because you allow the knees to bend and straighten as is right for you. And feel the blood rushing to the head. Coming to still the body, and then inhale to roll up vertebra by vertebra. Rounding in the spine. And then bringing your hands to the small of the back once again, bending in the knees, same movement as before, this kind of standing camel. Opening the heart. Hands in the small of the back, elbows back in space, deep full breath in. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Start to release your hands and slowly melt down to the floor. Knees bent, nice fluid movement. Back to your ragdoll, rocking from side to side. Making the body nice and still, back in the center, and then inhale to roll up vertebra by vertebra. Rounding in the spine, we're going to do it a third and last time. Hands in small of the back, facing up towards the ceiling, elbows together, press in, almost massage your lumbar spine. Press the heel of the hand in, knees bent, nice full deep inhalation, deep long exhalation. Inhale and exhale. Slowly roll down. This time, hold hands onto elbows as you rock from side to side in your ragdoll. 2 full breaths here. And then inhale to roll up, releasing your hands. Coming to stand once again, facing your chair, and then turn to face away from the chair, so back to your chair, and come onto your knees. Place a cushion again underneath the bum, and this one is quite an intense one for the upper middle back, very nice for it, but intense. So the front of the seat of the chair should be really over your rhomboid, so over the center of your shoulder blades, and where the tendons and muscles join the shoulder blades. So right center of upper middle back. And so you want that edge to be flush, the edge that's covered by a blanket to be flush into the upper middle back. Just really start to open your chest, let your knees splay outwards, so you're almost making like a Baddha Konasana shape with your legs. If your groins get tight or tired, you can place cushions underneath your knees to protect them. And then you're going to reach to the back of your chair. So you're going to relax your neck here, make a natural kind of shape with your head as you look up towards the ceiling. If that hurts your neck, then you can also look forwards, but it is an intense stretch for neck and upper back. So just find what's right for you and try to work with the shape. And so you're holding the back of your chair, And I'm hooking on the inside of the back of the chair. If the back of the chair is solid, you can also invert your hands to have them in the other direction. If your chair is too high, you can also hold the outer edge of the back of the chair on either side. So just find what works for you. And we're going to hold for a few breaths, and then we're going to fold forwards and back because it's super intense, and it's super intense of the neck as well. But a deep opener. Another 2 full breaths here. Exhale. And then release your hands and fold forwards over your legs. Maybe we'll go back into it a second time. Maybe you want to place a cushion over your feet as you fold forwards. A couple of breaths here. So our third and final aspect to returning to the essence of creativity, or integrating creativity as a way of life, is patience. And I think it could be said that time pressure or concern with rate of production is almost the enemy of creativity. Sometimes a creative pursuit is something done quickly, swiftly, impulsively, but that is not always the case. And for many of us, time pressure is exactly what stops us from going down the rabbit hole, or trying something new, or lingering on something that's meaningful and worth exploring. And so an approach and a value of time, and a value of doing things fully and completely is critical. And obviously within workspace and responsibilities of being a householder and being a person, a unit within an economy, it's very difficult, given that, to be patient. A lot of the time, it's super difficult to be patient. And so any moment or thing that you do outside of that, cultivating ways to ground your mind and your body in a practice of patience every day, is critical. Our brains are muscles, they are memory muscles. And if all of your day is a rush to produce at a certain rate as quickly as possible, you can forget the habit of patience. You can unlearn it. So even if it's 30 minutes, 20 minutes a day of doing something that requires great patience and little production, that could be a way to cultivate a muscle memory of valuing completion, careful, fastidious work or creation. On your next inhale, lift up, and let's do that deep upper back opener once again. So pressing your upper back on the back of the chair, softening the head. In fact, if you find that your neck was getting really tired, let's try to place a cushion on the top of the chair to support your head. See if that works for you. It certainly feels a bit more relaxing from the neck for me. And then reach back for the top of the chair or the sides, again as before. Press your chest open and really try to get a nice firm hold of that chair behind you. Let your breathing be full and rhythmical. Let us hold the pose to its full completion. Let the breath fill your body right down to the belly, to the hips. There's so much therapeutic potential in breath. There's a lot of release going on in this pose for everyone. And so use your breath as your personal tool, your personal assistant, in assisting that release. Coming into the last 3 full cycles in this pose, full cycles of breath. And try and soften your head and neck with each breath. And when you're ready, slowly release. Slowly come out and immediately move your bum off the cushion, and we'll go straight into a supported or a restorative Paschimottanasana. So one cushion under the knees, the other cushion in front of the belly. Legs with the feet flopping outwards, legs straight, and then allow yourself to roll forwards. And now critically make sure that your neck is somehow supported. So roll up a towel or a blanket, scarf, use a block, a book. Make sure that your head is supported. You can also balance it, of course, on a fist or an arm. And let your spine round naturally. Let your shoulders and back be completely relaxed, and don't try to bend forwards too much, too drastically. Let it be a very subtle and soft movement forwards. Did some serious upper back opening there, so you just want to give your spine time to adjust. In yogic philosophy, creativity is tied up with a state of mind. So creativity is spoken of as a particular vibrational frequency, and that vibrational frequency of the mind is akin to a deep meditative state, or the frequency of the mind when you are in a kind of a waking deep sleep. And it is written that when you lower the frequency of the brain to that level, you are receptive. You are receptive to impulses and inspiration. Yogic philosophy, creativity is considered to be divine. It's a divine or spiritual encountering. So it falls into the interpretation of it as a mystical expression. And it is indeed something that arrives at you, that moves through you. And it is only, you are only open to the transmissions when your mind state is at a low enough frequency. So when we are in an organizational state of mind, so doing stuff, task lists, doing admin, working through functional life, we are at around 16 hertz of brain frequency. Anything above 20 is a kind of a psychotic state. So it's a pretty high frequency when we're just getting shit done, being productive. When we are relaxed, say reading a book or listening to music, the brain goes down to about 10 hertz. When we do mindful practices such as yin or Tai Chi, mindful dance practices that are very repetitive, maybe painting, if that is repetitive for you. Those kind of mindful therapeutic practices, the frequency can drop to about 8. Meditation is around 6 hertz, 6 to 4. And that is the same frequency as REM sleep or lighter sleep in dreaming states. Deep sleep is around 2 hertz. 0 is death. So our subconscious, activation of the subconscious, is at a very, very low frequency. And the yogis believed that creativity arrives at you, that you are open to the transmissions of divine messages and expression when you are at around 6 to 2. And interestingly, Einstein used to write about how his incredibly creative ideas, his genius work, happened only when he was in a sort of meditative state. He used to use ways within his working, his office space, to lower his brain frequency. And he wrote a lot about that as an essential part of his creation work, his genius work. All happened at a very low state, akin to a meditative state. And so in our yin practice, we are vibrating at that incredible low level. So your last few breaths here in our final pose before our Shavasana, I invite you to really just become aware of that calm, focused, deep state in the mind, that low frequency where our brain is able to rest, rejuvenate, order, categorize. Digest. The body activates healing processes. And as the body is still, so is the mind. Your next inhalation, gently lifting the body up. And we can get into our Shavasana now. So you might need to move your chair out the way. I certainly do. And I invite you to arrange cushions or blankets or socks or eye pillows underneath you, around you, on you, in ways that feel right and good for your body. Make sure that when you recline down into your corpse pose, into your Shavasana, that you do so carefully, taking great care with the spine. Maybe arranging a cushion underneath your knees, the back of the knees, maybe under your head or lower back. Giving yourself the time to be totally supported, to feel completely safe and soft and warm. I invite you to close your eyes and let your attention immediately drop into your mouth. I invite you to soften your tongue, and soften your cheeks, soften the palate. Imagine as though you could soften into the gums and teeth. Let the jaw be slack. Let the skin of the face start to melt. Let your lips be soft. Feel any tension or pressure over the forehead, temples start to ease. As this whole skin of the face and the scalp melts down over you, down into the earth. Let the body be soft, soft and receptive. Invite you to breathe in the context of this moment we share together, and that is relaxation, that is focused rest and rejuvenation. I invite you to be receptive to the calm environment you've created around you this evening, today. To be receptive to the support of the floor, the comfort of blankets and cushions. To be receptive to the knowledge and the feeling and the truth that you are safe here. I invite you to be patient, to not rush these precious moments of relaxation, to not rush your body and mind in its well-deserved rest here. Do not rob yourself of this gift of mindful practice and restorative practice. Be patient for the full conclusion of this pose and this time in meditation. To be patient in quiet and stillness. And I invite you finally to experience and lean into the expanse, the spaciousness, the opportunity, the latent opportunity of deep conscious rest, of meditation, of a restorative practice. To feel this expanse in your body and in your mind. Breathe in the opportunity of this time, both on your mat and in your body and mind in this moment, and of this time that we are living through, latent with opportunity. Breathe in this expanse. And to foster, nurture, and kindle the saplings of opportunity that lie therein. If you want to gently move your fingers and toes, Re-emerging from your rest. Feels right for you. Stretch your arms above your head, taking a deep breath in. And then I invite you to roll onto your right side, keeping your right arm up, reaching away from your shoulders, and cradle your right ear and head on the inner part of your right upper arm. So roll into a fetal pose. And as you lay here for a moment, I'd like to read a short poem to you called Creative Flow by Kirsty Ann Martin, who was a poet, of course, but a writer. And this is her expression of the process of creation. Words swim inside my head as I drift into a lyrical sea. Emotions flow in rhythmic waves as diluted thoughts flood the page. Paper drenched in melodic verse, passion surges, and I am submerged, drowning in inspiration as my ink drips from my pen. I invite you to gently press your hand into the floor and come up to a seated position facing forwards. I invite you to bring your hands together in front of your heart, palm to palm, feeling the touch of palm to palm, and honoring this moment. You've given yourself the gift of a restorative practice, and just taking a moment to be aware of how calm and still and focused you feel. Thanking yourself, your body, your mind for this, honoring your stillness. I invite you to join me in a universal vibration of Taking a deep breath in. Thank you. Namaste.